What is Rodin's The Thinker really thinking? A muscular man sits on a rock, chin on fist, completely naked, looking like he's trying to solve the world's hardest math problem, or maybe remember where he left his keys. People stare at him, copy his pose, laugh a little and whisper things like, "He looks constipated." Welcome to the world of Rodin's The Thinker, the most famous man in art who never finishes his thought. The Thinker, from Dante to world icon. At first glance, the Thinker seems simple. One man frozen in deep thought. But behind this quiet image is a dramatic story involving poetry, hell, and a sculptor who shook the art world. The French sculptor Auguste Rodin first created the figure around 1880, not as a standalone statue, but as part of a giant bronze doorway called the Gates of Hell. The original figure was much smaller and meant to represent Dante Alighieri, the poet who wrote the Divine Comedy. Dante was imagined sitting above his vision of hell, looking down at the chaos he had written about. Later, Rodin enlarged the figure, separated it from the doorway, and presented it as an independent sculpture. Without the background of the Gates of Hell, people saw something new. Instead of Dante, they saw the universal human thinker, someone wrestling with big questions, big emotions, and maybe a few small regrets. Today, the Thinker has become a global icon, a symbol of thought, struggle, creativity, and the eternal feeling of, why is this problem so hard? The Terrible View, the Thinker's context on the Gates of Hell. Many people imagine the Thinker as peaceful, a philosopher in a quiet garden. But when we place him back in his original location, the truth becomes much darker. Rodin's Gates of Hell is enormous, over 6 meters tall and crammed, with about 200 twisting, falling, tormented figures. They represent scenes from Dante's Inferno, where human souls face punishments for their sins. And right above this giant nightmare sits the Thinker. Ugolino, the father with the impossible choice. On the left side of the gates, Rodin sculpted Count Ugolino, a character from Dante's story who was locked in a tower with his children and grandsons. Starving, surrounded by the bodies of his dying family, he faced an unthinkable decision and ended up eating them to survive a little longer. Rodin shows Ugolino crawling forward, wild with grief, surrounded by the limp bodies of the children he could not save. It is one of the most intense, tragic scenes in the entire sculpture. Paolo and Francesca, the lovers caught in a deadly kiss. On another part of the door are Paolo and Francesca, a pair of tragic lovers. Francesca was married to a man she didn't love, but she fell in love with his younger brother Paolo. Their stolen kiss led to their deaths when the husband discovered them. In hell, they swirl forever in a storm of passion and regret. Rodin loved their pose so much that he sculpted it separately as the kiss. It's a piece that looks romantic until you remember how the story ends. Now imagine the Thinker sitting above scenes like Ugolino's hunger and Francesca's doomed love. His tight muscles, curled toes, and heavy brow are no longer calm or philosophical. He is watching human tragedy unfold beneath him. This is not peaceful thinking. This is agonized thinking. What is he thinking? Interpretations of the pose. People have been trying to guess what's on the Thinker's mind for over a century. Art historians suggest he might be Dante, judging the souls below. He might be Rodin, a self-portrait of the artist wrestling with ideas. He might be every human, the symbol of our inner lives. Ordinary people have other theories. He's wondering where his clothes went. He's trying to remember if he turned off the stove. He just got a text that says, "We need to talk." The humor works because Rodin captured something real. Think about the last time you made a difficult decision. Your whole body tensed, your mind felt heavy, and your nerves twisted like wires. That is exactly what the Thinker looks like. We imagine thinking as peaceful. Rodin reminds us that real thinking is hard work, messy, sweaty, full of hesitation. Rodin's technique, making bronze look alive. One reason the sculpture feels so powerful is Rodin's technique. He had a gift for making bronze look like living, breathing human flesh. In the 19th century, many artists favored smooth, idealized forms, like the perfect marble beauty of Michelangelo's David. Those classical statues are polished, symmetrical, flawless. Rodin was not interested in perfection. His sculptures are rough, textured, and emotional. Muscles ripple unevenly. Skin folds naturally. Motion feels captured in mid-air. His surfaces are full of dents, bumps, and tool marks on purpose. Some critics were shocked. They even spread a rumor that Rodin was cheating by covering a real person in plaster and making a mold, because no one believed a sculptor could shape such lifelike figures by hand. But that rawness is precisely what makes the thinker unforgettable. He is not a perfect hero. He is a human being under pressure. From Hell's Gate to a global landmark. Once Rodin showed the enlarged version of the thinker by itself, people saw it with fresh eyes. Without the chaos of the gates of hell behind him, the statue became a kind of mirror. Viewers projected their own worries, doubts, and thoughts onto him. By the early 1900s, giant bronze casts appeared in public squares and museums. In front of the Pantheon in Paris, he was celebrated as the symbol of the working man's mind. Ordinary people using their intelligence, not just their hands. Because bronze can be cast many times, there are now dozens of official thinkers around the world, sitting in gardens, museums, universities, and parks. Everywhere he goes, he silently asks the same question: what kind of life are you choosing? Why the thinker still matters. You might wonder why a statue from the 1800s still matters today. It matters because, one, thinking is still hard work. Whether you're choosing a career or trying to survive college, deep thinking takes effort. 2, our choices have consequences. Ugolino, Paolo, Francesca each faced the results of their decisions. So do we. 3, doubt is part of being human. The thinker shows that confusion, hesitation, and inner conflict are not weaknesses. They are steps toward wisdom. 4, art can be serious and funny at the same time. You can admire Rodin's genius and still laugh at the memes. That's the magic. Final reflection. Next time you see the thinker, try not to think only of the pose that everyone imitates. Think of the giant nightmare he once sat above. Think of the human stories twisting under his feet. Think of the artist who wanted us to feel life, not just look at it. Congratulations. You too are a thinker. Now, what great, painful, or necessary choice will you contemplate today?
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Muscular. Definition: having strong, well-developed muscles. Showing physical strength in the body. Example: the athlete had a muscular build that showed years of training. 2. Constipated. Definition: unable to pass waste from the body easily, often causing discomfort or strain. Example: he looked so tense and stiff that someone joked he might be constipated. 3. Standalone. Definition: able to exist by itself. Not needing to be part of something larger to make sense or function. Example: Rodin enlarged the figure into a standalone sculpture that people could admire on its own. 4. Enormous. Definition: extremely large in size, quantity, or degree. Much bigger than usual. Example: the museum displayed an enormous bronze door, filled with hundreds of figures. 5. Crammed. Definition: completely filled with things so tightly that there is little or no space left. Example: the room was crammed with visitors eager to see the famous artwork. 6. Swirl. Definition: to move in a twisting, circular, or spiraling motion. To be carried around in a turning flow. Example: the leaves began to swirl in the wind as the storm approached. 7. Symmetrical. Definition: having balanced proportions where one side mirrors the other. Creating harmony and order. Example: the building's symmetrical design made it pleasing to the eye. 8. Flawless. Definition: without any mistakes, defects, or imperfections. Completely perfect. Example: the dancer performed a flawless routine that amazed the entire audience. 9. Ripple. Definition: to move in small waves. or to cause a gentle wave-like motion across a surface. Example: a breeze made the water ripple softly across the pond.
Comprehension questions. 1. Why did Rodin originally create The Thinker? Answer: he created it as a small figure representing Dante for the gates of hell, a large bronze doorway based on the Divine Comedy. 2. How did the public's interpretation of The Thinker change once it was enlarged and displayed alone? Answer: people no longer saw it only as Dante. They saw it as a universal symbol of human thought and inner struggle. 3. What is the gates of hell, and how does it relate to The Thinker? Answer: it is a huge bronze doorway, covered with about 200 figures from Dante's Inferno. The Thinker originally sat above this doorway, looking down at the scenes of torment. 4. Name the 2 tragic stories depicted on the gates of hell that the article highlights. Answer: the stories of Count Ugolino and of the lovers Paolo and Francesca. 5. What terrible choice did Count Ugolino face, according to the story? Answer: he was locked in a tower with his children, and, after they died from starvation, he faced the horrifying choice of eating their bodies to survive longer. 6. Why are Paolo and Francesca punished in Dante's Inferno? Answer: they shared a forbidden kiss. Francesca was married to Paolo's brother, and were killed when caught. In hell, they swirl eternally in a storm of passion and regret. 7. How does understanding the gates of hell change the interpretation of the thinker's pose? Answer: his tense muscles and heavy posture appear not calm but filled with pain, conflict, and contemplation of human tragedy, rather than peaceful philosophy. 8. What 2 humorous explanations do ordinary people give for the thinker's pose? Answer: that he's wondering where his clothes went, or that he is worried he left the stove on. 9. How does Rodin's sculpting style differ from classical sculpture? Like Michelangelo's David? Answer: classical sculptures are smooth, idealized, and polished, while Rodin's style is rough, textured, emotional, and filled with visible tool marks that emphasize human struggle. 10. Why did critics once accuse Rodin of cheating? Answer: because his sculptures looked so lifelike that some believed he made molds directly from real people instead of sculpting by hand. 11. Why are there so many versions of The Thinker around the world? Answer: because bronze sculptures can be cast multiple times from molds, allowing many official copies to be made. 12. According to the article, what modern meaning does The Thinker represent for ordinary people today? Answer: it symbolizes deep thinking, difficult choices, self-reflection, and the universal human experience of wrestling with life's challenges. 13. What 4 reasons does the article give for why The Thinker still matters today? Answer: 1. Thinking is hard work. 2. Choices have consequences. 3. Doubt is part of being human. 4. Art can be serious and funny at the same time. 14. What vocabulary word means to think deeply about something? Answer: contemplate. 15. What final challenge does the article give to readers? Answer: it asks what important or difficult choice they will contemplate today, inviting them to see themselves as thinkers too.